Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. I appreciate you guys calling in today. It's straight up the top of the hour, so we're going to get started on time. My name is Terry Kelm, and I am the president of Sunbelt's Resales Program, and I'm excited to have you guys join us today. A couple of housekeeping issues. First of all, I'm going to ask that you, if you could, go ahead and mute your phones for the start of the presentation. I realize there's probably going to be some questions. I'm going to ask that you hold all questions to the end for the sake of brevity and time, and plus I want to eliminate as much background noise as possible since we are going to be recording this for inclusion on the HBPA website. So if you can go ahead and mute your phones, that would be fantastic. Again, I do want to take questions, and we will have set aside some time at the end to do that. So as we go through the slides, if something comes up, just jot it down, make a note of it, and we can come back and answer those questions at a later time. The second thing I'm going to say to you guys is, this is a very fluid situation, a very fluid time, as you know, and everybody is in a different situation and a different position. Not everybody's alike. The goal of this webinar today is just to try to give you the view from 30,000 feet, if you will. Try to give you a holistic, general view of some of the situation as it pertains to your value of your business. And again, it might not be exactly for you that everything that we're going to talk about pertains to you or your business, but again, we're just trying to give you a general idea of what things look like from a business value perspective. So when I was putting this presentation together last week, we did this the first time for your group. I came across this quote right before I was starting, and I thought it was a really real good quote, and that is, "Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it never gets you anywhere." And I know that there's a fair amount of you right now that are very worried, and I've joined you with that. I own two small businesses myself, so I'm going through this just like you guys are, and it's very simple to let worry consume you. And today, one of the things that I really wanted to have you guys take away from this is, while worry is definitely a human emotion that we all going to have, it can't paralyze you. You have to have a bias toward action, to doing things, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. So the other thing I'm going to mention to you on the front end is, if you're worried about your business value, whether it be in the short term, if you're thinking about selling your business now or the very near future, or for the long term, we're going to be discussing some things today that I think are very positive regarding business value. Of course, everything comes with caveats, right? But for the most part, I think the message we have today, I think you're going to find is good news. Depending on your situation. So I think in a world where we haven't had a lot of good news in the last 6 weeks, I think some of this information that we present today, you guys will be a little bit excited to hear, at least have a better understanding of where you stand from a business value standpoint. So where today's agenda is, we're going to attempt to give you some clarity about your business value. We know that there's lots of questions. We also know that for some of you, there's some tough decisions to be made. Again, we don't want to minimize that. But we're going to try to walk you through some of those things today, give you a little bit more clarity in the situation. I want to give you an update on what the market looks like if you are thinking about selling your business now or down the road. And as I mentioned, I think there's some good news, and then we'll finish up with giving you a little bit of information about how Sunbelt maybe can help you if you decide to go down the sale of your business path. So moving to kind of the meat of the act, the first thing I want to remind everybody is, and I'm sure you've heard it, constantly on the radio, TV, we're all in this together, right? Well, you as business owners, we are in this together. You are not alone. Most businesses have been affected by one way or the other by the COVID-19 virus outbreak. I was on a call last week, 10 days ago now, and they did a survey of nearly 500 small business owners. 82% of those business owners responded that current revenues were down compared to a year prior, and 55% of those owners said they were either closed or they were working hours that were less than normal. And I think that's where most of us find ourselves today, is working different hours and seeing our bottom line take a hit. And as we move forward from this, we know that there are going to be changes. The consumer behavior may be changing every single day, and we also know that there's going to be some government policy that's going to come into effect that's also could have a dramatic impact on businesses and what those businesses do moving forward. And of course, that impact, it's going to be positive for some. Okay, anyways, as I mentioned, the impact, it's going to be negative for some, it's going to be positive for some. So, but rest assured, every business is going to be impacted by this. But you guys as business owners, you're going to be challenged to find ways to leverage technology and find opportunities under this new normal to preserve the long-term viability of the business. And that's what I mean when I said earlier that you have to right now have a bias towards action as opposed to just sitting back and waiting to see what happens when things come, right? So a bias toward action, and try to find what the opportunities are. Try to leverage different facets of your business to take advantage of some of the positive impacts that the situation is going to bring. So when we usually talk about succession planning and the potential of selling your business, one of the things we typically want to discuss is how we're going to do it. But today, that's no longer the first question in the equation. Today, it's all about forecasting what your business is going to look like going forward. And every business owner, whether you're thinking about selling your business right away or you're going to sell it 20 years from now, you're going to be forced to run an exercise that's going to include these type of questions. And that is, number one, how long before we can resume operations at a normal level? Number two, how or do we fully recover? Do we completely get back to the point where we were? Number three, how much will I spend or lose during this time between the time that we resume normal operations and the time that we recover completely? And number four is, will the cash flow during that time be enough to cover any loans or debt that you're going to take out in order to keep the business going? And those are all very personal questions, right? Only you guys can answer those questions. And for some, I know it's going to be a guess. And a lot of this, just like the virus itself, it's a guess. But I think it's important that you start, looking at those type of exercises and trying to figure out, hey, what do we, if you haven't already started forecasting, and a lot of you have probably already done that, but if you haven't, you need to see, what do I have and what do we need to go forward? There are some other questions that you can answer with less guessing though. And the first question is, again, going back to one of my previous slides, and that is, are there changes to my business model I can make that will speed my recovery? Can we use this time to again, leverage technology or to do certain things differently going forward that's going to help us be a better business going forward? But the other big question is do I have the energy, desire, health, and resources to actually do those things? And for some of you, the answer to that question right now may be no, or it may be, I don't know. I might not have that. And if you're answering that question, no, or I don't know, then what happens, right? Well, I will tell you that, for the people that are in that boat today, selling your business is always an option. But what does that look like right now, given the current situation? Well, we're gonna discuss that, in much more depth here as we get into the meat of the program. So, as I help people buy and sell businesses for a living, in the past several weeks, I've had a lot of conversation with small business owners who were contemplating selling their business in the near future, or maybe they're even on the market right now. And they've called to have a general discussion. And I will tell you that the most common asked questions in those discussions are as follows. Number one, is my business sellable? And if it's sellable, at what price right now? Number two, can it be financed? Number three, what are the time frames? How long is it taking to get a deal done? And number four, why on earth would anybody be looking to buy a business right now? So these are the four questions that we're going to be talking about at length through the rest of the program here. But before we get into that, I want to first do a quick segue that I think will help us understand some of the answers to these four questions by talking a little bit about how value of business is calculated. And I will tell you that I typically do a full 45-minute webinar just on business valuation. So this one slide that we're going to be talking about today is by no means meant to be comprehensive. But I wanted to just give you an idea of one of the valuation methods that business brokers typically put potential sellers through to figure out what their business is worth, because I think it's really important for the rest of the presentation to have that understanding. So Again, there's lots of different ways to value a business. I was on the phone this morning with a valuation guy who was talking about business values. I used a couple of things that he said and updated my slides from last week already in this presentation. But there's multiple different ways to value your business. But one that business brokers tend to prefer, because it tends to give business owners the best valuation possible, is a valuation method called owner benefit, or seller's discretionary earnings, or SDE. And the valuation method is calculating SDE, which is not just your profits, but it's also everything you as an owner take out of the business. So I'm talking salary, I'm talking if you pay for health insurance, car insurance, daughter's college tuition, if you pay into a 401k for yourself, anything that you get out of the business, we calculate into the seller discretionary earnings methodology of value. And once we determine what that SDE number is, we apply a multiple to that value. Now, multiples vary. They vary by industry, they vary by company size, etc. Generally, again, view from 30,000 feet today, multiples are typically between 2 times to 3 times the SDE number for retail and service businesses. Distribution businesses, manufacturing businesses have a higher multiple. Businesses that make more money, that have a higher SDE, have a higher multiple. But generally, most businesses fall between 2 and 3 times, okay? Multiples are also determined by a lot of other facets of your business, and those are the type of things that we talk about when we do the valuation webinar, which we hope to do for the HBPA members later this year in 2020. But I just wanted you to have at least a basic understanding of what a multiple looks like for a business, because it's going to help you as we navigate the rest of the presentation. So the first question, is my business sellable and at what price? The first thing I wanted you guys to understand is there is always a market for small business resales, okay? There are always people out there looking to become an entrepreneur and to buy into a small business. It doesn't matter the economic market we're in. It doesn't matter if we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's always people that are looking to become entrepreneurs, all right? Now, understand the market price may not reflect your expectations, and that's common. I mean, look, for every 10 sellers I talk to on a daily basis, 9 of them have a higher opinion of value of their business than what the market may bear for it, okay? And I get it. I mean, because it's your capital, it's your risk, it's your blood, it's your sweat, it's your tears. It's always going to mean more to you, okay? But really, the important thing for you guys to do, especially for the ones on the call who may be considering selling your business in the next 1 to 18 months, I think it's really imperative that you would assess what the market range for your business is, and then make a decision on whether or not you can afford to sell, want to sell, have to sell, okay? So how do you do that? Well, one of the things that we're offering HBPA members is that we will help you do that for free. We will give you a value range for your business. It'll be a very wide scale from low number, what we think is the absolute floor, to the very top, what the high ceiling is. And you'll have at least a good idea of what the range is, and then you can make some decisions. Hey, if my number falls in that low range, do I want to do it now? If it falls in the high side, do I want to do it now? It'll just at least give you the opportunity to figure out what the market's going to be bearing for your businesses now. So we're opening that up to you guys. If you're interested in doing that, all you have to do is send me an email, and we'll walk you through the process. But it doesn't take very long to do a quick and dirty value range analysis. And that will help you guys figure out, where you stand. Now, also understand that multiples, what that multiple is, whether it's 2 times or 3 times or more or less, multiples reflect risk, okay? And so in a situation like we are in today, risk is more prevalent, right? So multiples are going to probably dip in the near future, all right? We're probably going to see that. But I want you to know that the historical markets in the last 20 years where we've had economic events, while we've seen the dips, they do not dip dramatically. So let me give you a slide here to prove that point. These are SDE multiples of every small business resale that was recorded in the last 20 years. You'll see that on the high side, we were at 2.9 times SDE as an average of all business sales. And you'll see that the very lowest side it went to was 2.6. All right. So as I was saying, if you look at the multiples for small business resales, you'll notice that, the furthest they slid really was from 2.9 down to 2.7 after 9/11 and after the recession in 2009. They only went down from 2.9 to 2.8. The biggest dip we've ever seen was over a 1 year period was in 2012. So the point of this slide is this, guys. Yes, the multiples might go down a little bit because the risk is up, but it's not going to have a dramatic impact on your business value. And really, I think there's some information I'm going to present here as we continue down the path that'll show that hopefully the values won't dip at all, that they're going to remain relatively constant. But we'll talk sooner about that. But if they do go down, it will not be a dramatic drop in the price of your business. So, at the end of the day, guys, if you decide to keep your business, whether you're going to keep it for a year or two or 20 years, your price down the road will not be determined by anything that happened during the COVID era. It's going to be determined by how your financials look when you go to market. Buyers and banks typically do a 3-year look back on business financials to determine what price they're going to pay. So if you sell in 2025, for example, they're going to look at 24, 23, and 22 numbers. 20 won't be any way part of that, okay? But if you're going to sell quicker than that, if you're looking at selling this year or next year, your value for your business is really going to be determined by your bounce back. And I will tell you that if your bounce back comes back completely, your value will remain constant with the pre-COVID estimates. And I say that because what's going to happen is this. They're going to compare your business to what it was like before COVID to what it's like after COVID. And if like I said, if it's bounced back to where you're doing similar dollar amounts on a monthly basis, they will basically overlook COVID. They'll say it just went down because of COVID, and it's an anomaly that needs to go away. So if you decide to sell your business in the near future, you may not have to worry about explaining the downturn. It's going to be understood by both buyers and banks that that's what happened, and it was a one-time event, and it's over with, and your business is back to normal. So, but in order to prove that, you're going to need to have monthly financial statements. And I'm working with a seller right now that, they pay their taxes every year, but they don't do very good monthly financials. They just do yearlies. And that's going to hinder them a little bit, because what buyers and banks want to do is they want to do a month-to-month comparison. They want to see what you did in January of 20 versus January of 19. They're going to want to see what you did in May of 20 versus May of 19. So monthly financials are going to become more and more important. So if you're not doing monthly financials in your business, you need to start today. It's another change that we're going to have to do in order to sell your business down the road. All right, question 2. Can my deal be financed? So again, whatever dollars you were generating for your benefit, whatever SDE you had pre-COVID is going to go a long way to determine if you're going to be able to get bank financing. We haven't seen enough sales yet to know if the COVID period will be completely forgotten and forgiven by banks and buyers. But we think they're going to. As long as they see the bounce back, they'll understand that that COVID happened, and they won't hold it against you from a value standpoint or from a lending standpoint. And understand that banks prior to COVID were very aggressive in lending for purchases. Now, things are slowing down in that realm a little bit right now, and part of it is because of all the programs that the government has put together to help businesses on a federal basis, especially the SBA PPP. That program is actually taken into the funds that are allocated for the 7A Small Business Lending Program. And unfortunately, the prognostication is they will be out of funds by July. So that may hurt anybody who's in the process of trying to sell their business today. There might not be any SBA lending for a couple months. But we believe that fund will get refunded in July. And hopefully the banks will go back right to where they were in the way they were lending businesses for business purchases, at the levels before COVID-19 hit. I will say, though, one change that happened, and this one happened after the recession of 2009 as well. And we had just gotten to a point where we were going away from it, but now it's already coming back. And that is on every purchase that the SBA is lending on, they're making the seller carry back at least 10% of the deal. So what that typically looks like from a financing standpoint is the buyer is chipping in about 20% of the sales price. The bank is paying 70%, and you, the seller, are carrying the last 10% on a subordinated note. And I've got 2 deals right now that are still looking like they're going to close in May, and that is the conditions on both of those. The bank has asked for a 10% carry back from the seller. So again, if you're looking at selling your business in the near future, you may be asked to carry, even if you get an SBA loan to get the purchase done, you may be asked to carry some of the money back on a note. Question 3, what are the time frames? Again, buyers and banks are going to look back 3 full years, and they're going to look back on both annual numbers as well as monthly numbers. Deals that we were doing pre-COVID were taking anywhere from 3 months to 1.5 years, with the average just under 8 months from the date of list to the date of close. So the average business sale was taking about 8 months. And again, this is where you guys have to go back and answer that question from slide 6. Do you have the energy, the desire, the health, and the resources to continue to operate your business for 3 months, 8 months, 1.5 years? Okay? If the answer is no, your business might not be sellable. That's just the hard truth. So again, this is why it's important for you guys to have those kind of looks right now at your business to figure out where you're at. All right, question 4, the last question. Why would people be buying businesses right now? Well, there are plenty of reasons to assume that the buyer activity is not going to slow. I will tell you that buyer activity is still very high for us right now. Now, granted, there are some hesitations on buyers, especially ones that are about to or have just made an offer. They do want to see if there's going to be a short-term rebound here. And so they're saying, hey, let's wait a month before we go further. But I will tell you that we're still seeing a lot of new buyer activity. And here's the reasons why. Number one is people are always looking to become an owner. I mentioned this earlier. There's always voluntary entrepreneurs out there that want to buy business. But there's also people right now that have an incredible amount of time on their hands. If they've been furloughed, if they've been told they have to work at home, they have more time to surf the web. And again, a lot of people who have been either let go or have been downsized, they realize that they're probably not going to go back to the job they used to have, or at least they're not going to go back to that job at the same amount of money that they were making. And we call those people forced entrepreneurs. These are people that 3 months ago was really not thinking about buying a business, but today they are, because they know they're not going to be able to replace their income any other way. So with people having excess time and people becoming forced entrepreneurs, we saw an increase of 18% in our web leads for buyers in March of 2020 versus March of 2019 at a handful of our Sunbelt offices. So we are starting to see buyer activity pick up. The other thing that goes on right now is the interest rates are super low. Money is cheap right now if somebody can get a loan to buy a business. It's probably not going to be this cheap again. So it's really, really low rates. We also have a group of buyers out there right now looking because they're investors. They're not looking to become owner-operators, but they're looking to buy good businesses because they don't want to put their money in the stock market right now. The market is way too volatile. These guys have cash in hand. They don't have to get loans. They have money to invest, and they've decided that small business entrepreneurship is the way to go long term. It's going to give them the best rate of return. Also, there's other business owners out there that are in your marketplace, that are in your industry, that are using this time to make strategic acquisitions. And by the way, if you're one of them, if you realize that, hey, this is a good time for me to be buying, we can also help you with that. We represent buyers just like we do sellers. So if you have any questions on that, you can give me a call or drop me an email. The last point I'll make too is, at least in the near future, there are huge incentives from the CARES Act for buyers. And the biggest incentive of the CARES Act for buyers is this one right here. And that is the SBA. If you get a loan, an SBA loan to buy a business before September 27th, the SBA will automatically make the first 6 months of principal, interest, and fee payments on that loan. So if a buyer buys a business and takes an SBA loan out to get it, they do not have a loan payment for the first 6 months. And it's not like it's moved to the back of the loan. It's completely forgiven. It's free money for the first 6 months. So there are lots of buyers out there that were kind of on the sidelines for a while. But on March 26th, when the CARES Act was signed, they got aggressive again because they know they got to get this deal done before September in order to qualify for that first 6 months of forgiveness. So in short, again, there's a fair amount of buyer activity out there, and people are looking to do deals. So one other thing that I wanted to bring up to you guys, though, regarding the marketplace, and that is there's an upcoming supply and demand consideration that you also need to be aware of. In the U.S., the baby boomers, there's 78 million baby boomers, and they own over 2 million small privately held businesses. And back on February 14th of this year, Bloomberg Financial put an article out stating that they will believe that pretty much every one of those 2 million businesses will do some sort of transition in the next 17 years. Now, some of those transitions will include selling to their key employees. Some will be selling to family or giving the business to family. Some will close up shop. But a lot of them are going to go to the general market. And I think an event like we're just going through with COVID is going to speed that up. They're going to decide, I don't have the resources, I don't have the desire, I don't have the health, and I don't have the drive to go ahead and try to get this business back to where it was. So I'm just going to go to the market. And if you add all of those baby boomer businesses to just our normal business resale activity, analysts are saying we're going to see unprecedented numbers of businesses for sale in the next 3 to 17 years. And we're already starting to see a lot of the baby boomers getting out. So that's not exactly great news for anybody looking to sell in the immediate future, because the market's going to shift, and it's going to shift to a buyer's market, and buyers are going to be ultra picky because they're going to have lots of options. So again, it behooves you guys as a small business owner to start to plan now on making sure that you have a business that's sellable, that's going to attract buyers when they're ready. And I will tell you that we have another webinar queued up for HBPA members later this summer that's going to talk about what buyers are looking for when they're looking at small businesses. So it's going to help you guys be able to build your business to have those attributes that small business buyers are looking for. But the key to this whole thing, of course, is preparation. Start now, because again, buyers are going to look back 3 years. And you're going to need both year-end as well as monthly financials for those 3 years. And if you don't have good, clean, organized books, it's really going to kill your deal. You've got to have good financials. But if you're looking at selling, in the next 2 years or so, between now and 2 years, you may not have to explain what happened under COVID. If you're looking at selling 5 years from now, you won't have to explain what happened under COVID. So it's not going to impact your value at all right? Again, buyers are going to want businesses that have good growth factors, less risk factors. We'll talk about that in a separate webinar. And again, I'm also making myself available for private conversations for you guys. At the end of this thing, I'm going to give you my email and my phone number. My role with Sunbelt is to create relationships like we have with the HBPA. I'm here for you guys. I'm a liaison. I don't sell a lot of businesses myself. I let our Sunbelt offices to do most of that work. I'm here really just to provide a resource to you guys to help you answer your questions and to navigate the sales process when you're ready to have those questions start. Okay, so before I open it up for any questions, I just want to give you a 1-minute commercial on Sunbelt. You may know a little bit about us already, but we're the largest business broker in the United States. We've been in business for 42 years. We have 130 offices in North America. So we typically can provide you with a local office to help you with your business. And we have multiple ways in which we can help you guys. Our bread and butter is traditional business brokers. That's where you list your business with us, and we do all the work. We do all the advertising, all the buyer work, etc. But we also have consulting services. We have valuation services. And again, we're here to help you navigate the process, and we're here to help you achieve top dollar for your business. And that's the resource that we bring. So I appreciate all of you guys' time. In summary, I think if you're contemplating a sale now or in the near future, the good news is there's buyers. Banks seem to be lending. I don't think we're going to see a big drop in the multiples. And you may not have to explain COVID downturn. And with the incentives for buyers out there, I think deals can get done. And I think they can get done in a relatively quick amount of fashion. If you're waiting to sell, your value should return pre-COVID, provided your rebound is good. So I think there's lots of reasons to be optimistic that this thing, while it costs you in the short run, it shouldn't hurt your long-term value of your business. So with that, I will open it up to see if there's any certain questions that you guys want me to cover again. I went through that pretty quickly, but I hope that gave you a good view from 30,000 feet. Any questions that you'd like me to go over at this point in time? Okay, well, we did record the webinar. HBPA is gonna post it at some point in time once I get it over to them. I appreciate all you guys' time today. Again, keep fighting the good fight. Have a bias toward action, and hopefully we'll all get through this thing on the other side and have something to tell our kids, our grandchildren. But it won't cost us anything in terms of business value. So, thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.